Hello everyone, Dark Skeleton here, and today we're doing two card reviews for Whispers of the Old Gods. If you looked at the cards that you were actually able to vote on, you would have probably realized that this card by the art was obviously some variant of Deathwing. So big surprise, Deathwing the Dragonlord. A 10 mana, 12/12, just like the original Deathwing stats. However, his effect is completely different. Instead of a battle cry dumping your hand and destroying everything on the field minus Deathwing, this version of Deathwing, Deathwing the Dragonlord, as a death rattle, puts all dragons from your hand into the battlefield, which is much more of a Varian Wren style of effect. Very polar opposite, where one wipes the field, this one builds your board. Um, so if you're going to be playing Deathwing the Dragonlord, you're probably going to be playing a very heavy control deck that has, I'm thinking, cards like Ysera. Let's go ahead and check her out. At the end of your turn, add a dream card to your hand. Very strong, but a very slow late game control card that's hard to get out onto the field. So being able to get Ysera on the field for free does have the potential to be ridiculously good. Or cards like the original Deathwing. You get to summon him without paying the battle cry cost. So it's basically Death Rattle, your Deathwing dies, resummon Deathwing without having to basically pay the 10 mana cost or triggering the battle cry effect. So getting high-end dragons like this cheesed out onto the field can be a pretty strong effect. The question is, are you willing to play a deck that's that slow in order to justify this kind of playstyle? You could say Dragon Warrior, because Dragon Warrior has the 3/3 charging 2-drop if you're playing a dragon deck, which is pretty good. So there's definitely potential there for a Dragon Warrior or something like that. But yeah, it's just very slow. And the other problem with playing Deathwing is that if you happen to play Deathwing, his Death Rattle triggers, and you have too many dragons in hand. Like, let's say you have Ysera, Onyxia, Nefarian, and Deathwing. So you get like 40 mana of creatures out onto the board, which is absolutely ridiculous, and it's not answered, the game ends. But what if it is answered? What if your opponent just plays Brawl, and you lose the game immediately? Is that something you're willing to risk, and is that a play that's worth paying 10 mana to have the chance to activate? Um, there's definitely potential in this card, but you do have to be careful. There is such a thing as putting too much stuff on the board at once. That said, recently some really weird Varian Wren tempo warrior kind of decks have been posing a trouble for me. If you don't have the answer to Varian Wren or Deathwing the Dragonlord, you're in serious trouble, because what do you do when Ysera lives for a turn and you're facing like 30 attack worth of dragons? I think you just lose the game. So interesting card. May see some serious play actually. Deathwing is seeing play in Control Warrior, the classic Deathwing that is, and I think this variant of Deathwing is pretty good. And you also have to remember, he is a 12/12, and that is the largest body in the game. In terms of pure stats, that's really, really strong. If it doesn't get BGH to Polymorph, tough to deal with. That said, Polymorph would absolutely wreck this card, because not only do you not get any battle cry effects, but the Death Rattle just it's gone. So it's a 10 mana 12/12 that theoretically does nothing when it hits the board. Now it needs a silencer or polymorph or something like that to answer it, which is kind of asking quite a bit. But there are circumstances where you absolutely get wrecked. Other card for today, perhaps a lot less interesting, but you can probably see where they're trying to go with this. Embrace the Shadow. This turn, your healing effects deal damage instead. So, in a lot of ways, it's like playing an Arcanine Soul Priest, except without the 3/5 body. Generally speaking, I would say this card is significantly worse than an Arcanine Soul Priest, because Arcanine Soul Priest, its effect continues until it's removed off the board, and it's usually such a high threat that your opponent has to spend removal cards to take care of your Arcanine Soul Priest. And on top of that, the Arcanine is only 2 mana more, and paying 2 mana more for a 3/5 body, who wouldn't take that trade? The only circumstance I could see this card really being useful is if you want to combo so much healing into damage on one single turn that paying 2 extra mana for the Arcanine Soul Priest isn't an option, and you want to play the Embrace the Shadow instead to make that damage happen. I don't think there's enough healing cards in the game to really justify that. But actually, hold on a minute. There's one situation where I see this actually being really nice, and that's if you're going to use Circle of Healing with it. This plus Circle of Healing is actually probably better than Arcanized Soul Priest plus Circle of Healing, specifically because when you circle your own Arcanine, you're left with a 3-1 that's going to die to like a ping or something like that. I would rather play Embrace the Shadow Circle of Healing than I would play Arcanized Soul Priest Circle of Healing. But that said, still, Arcanized Soul Priest is going to be better in most cases. There's very few circumstances where you could play enough healing cards to take up 10 mana in a single turn. I don't think you can pull out 6 more mana of direct damage healing spells just by playing Arcanine Soul Priest in combination with that. So for dealing damage, Embrace the Shadow is okay, but it's overshadowed by Arcanine Soul Priest. For Circle of Healing, though, 2 cards, 2 mana, clear the board. That's actually really good. Yeah, that is really good. The question is, are you going to put this in your deck so that you specifically have that 1-2 card combo? Because in all other circumstances, Arcanine Soul Priest is just better. For that said, with Circle of Healing, might be willing to play one of, so that if you do draw that perfect combo, you just immediately regain the board. 2 mana to deal 4 damage, clear the board, and then you can easily put down like a 4-drop or something on turn 6. Kind of like bringing back Light Bomb in a lot of ways. But two of, it's just too situational of a card, because that's like the only combo I really see right now. Playing it with Flash of Light, you play it with Arcanine Soul Priest, and it's way better. And once again, just to restate, Arcanine Soul Priest, the effect continues in multiple turns, forces removal from your opponents. So, yeah, only really good with Circle of Healing that I can see. Maybe you guys can come up with another circumstance where this is actually a better card, but I'm not seeing it. Pretty weak on the whole. One of in very greedy control decks, maybe, but that's about it. So that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I've been Dark Skeleton, and until my next card review, I'll catch you guys later.